Hello everybody and welcome back to yet another Logan Blackman Show YouTube video. I hope you all are having a fantastic week up until this point, and I hope you all are ready for another exciting, exhilarating, informative Logan Blackman Show YouTube video. Now, before we get into anything we're going to talk about today, make sure to check out the links down in the description below. All the different social media accounts, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Make sure to check out the Apple Podcast and Spotify accounts. Make sure to also subscribe to the podcast YouTube channel as well. Make sure to check out the blog post at theloganblackmanshow.com, where you can check out the latest post, which is covering everything that we're going to go over in this video. It's going to be a little bit more in-depth, I would imagine, than how we handle this video. I don't know yet. The video just started, so I don't really know how this is going to go. This could go very well. It could be super informative. This could be 3 hours long, or it could be done in 10 minutes. I don't really know, but just make sure to go down and check out all the links down in the description below. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel as well, and if you're liking what you've seen at this point in time, make sure to give it a thumbs up, and if you want to wait till the end of the video to give it a thumbs up, then do that. I'll remind you to do that at the end of the video as well. But this one will obviously be going over the 2026 quarterback draft class. This is way too early to be doing this. I mean, we're in freaking May. We don't even know, like, we're basing this off of last season, what we think we know going into the season. Like, if you were to go back a couple years ago, like, the NFL draft's a very interesting, volatile place. Like, if you went back, let's just go a year ago. Let's go, who was the number one quarterback in this past year's draft class at this point in time? If you pulled most people out there, I'm sure some people would have had Shedeur Sanders in there, but a lot of people would have had Carson Beck as QB1 of the draft class. Where would people have had Cam Ward going into the draft process? Where would people have had Tyler Shuck going into the draft process? These are two of the top three quarterbacks that were taken in this year's draft class. And if you asked people this back in May of last year, they would not have been able to tell you that Cam Ward would be the number one overall pick in the draft. Now, if you go back to the podcast right after the draft, we talked about which quarterbacks could break into the first round that weren't really getting first round conversations. Because you look at, like, that seems to be a constant theme with the NFL draft. Like, you look at Jaden Daniels, wasn't really seen as a first-round draft pick going into that season. He became the second overall pick. You look at Kenny Pickett, who wasn't seen as a first-round draft pick, maybe even a draftable prospect, and he goes to the 20th pick to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Zach Wilson the year before that. Like, there's numerous examples of this happening where a quarterback just shoots up the board that nobody really had on their radar at this point, which is why this is so stupid. Which is why this is a dumb video idea, but it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun, and we watched a lot of quarterbacks from this past season, and going into this year, it's a very fun quarterback class. We kind of talked about that in the last video, like at the beginning of the last video, about which quarterbacks could be available early on in the draft process. It's a higher ceiling draft class than this year's. Like, this past year, we had 2 quarterbacks go in the first round. We had 3 go in the first 2 rounds. We had 5 go in the first 3 rounds. Shedeur Sanders, who was widely considered to be the second best quarterback in the draft, went in the 5th round. Like, if you look at the year before, where we had 6 quarterbacks go in the first 12 picks, I think we're going to have a more similar thing as that draft than we did last year. If I had to make a bold prediction right now, it does depend on one person in particular announcing that they're going to stay in college or whether they're going to go to the draft or not. I think there could be 5 quarterbacks taken in the first round of this year's draft. And we'll go over which 5 of those quarterbacks those are. But first, I want to go over the honorable mentions. Before we get into the top 10 and everything, I want to go over the honorable mention section first. And people within that honorable mention section are Luke Altmaier from Illinois. We have Jackson Arnold, who transferred from Oklahoma to Auburn. Rocco Becht, Aiden Childs, very high ceiling player, very up and down his first season at Michigan State after transferring in from Oregon State. Then you have the likes of Jalen Daniels, not Jane Daniels, Jalen Daniels. We have Kyron Drones from Virginia Tech. We have Noah Fafita from Arizona, Taylon Green from Arkansas, Mark Gronowski from Iowa, transferring in from South Dakota State, Eli Holstein from Pitt, Nico Iamaleava from from UCLA. He transferred from Tennessee to UCLA this past offseason. I'll touch on him and a couple other quarterbacks in the honorable mention section once we get done reading this list. You've also got Avery Johnson from Kansas State, Haynes King from Georgia Tech, Jaden Maeva from USC, Dante Moore from Oregon in his first year as a starter after transferring from UCLA, Miller Moss, who transferred in from USC to Louisville, Malachi Nelson. I really only have him on here because he's a former 5-star, but I'm not the biggest, I'm not going to sit here and act like Malachi Nelson at this point in time is going to be challenging for first round status. I mean, he transferred from Boise State, so I'm not really having the highest hopes going into the season, but he does have talent, so I thought I'd at least mention him in this section. I mean, he's going to UTEP. There's not a very strong pipeline of quarterbacks going from UTEP to the next level, but I could be wrong. Maybe Malachi Nelson absolutely lights the world up this year, but he's in the honorable mention section. Then we have Caden Salter, transferred to Colorado from Liberty. We have Ty Simpson from Alabama. And I don't know if Alabama's announced the starter yet. I'm assuming it's going to be Ty Simpson, and he's going to be, if whoever the starter is at Alabama this year, they're going to be talked about in regards to the first round draft. Not first round draft pick. I got to slow my roll here. They're going to be talked about as a draft prospect. And the final person I have on here is Connor Wegman from Houston, who transferred in from Texas A&M this offseason. But I wanted to touch on again Nico and Rocco Becht. from Iowa State. These are two guys that I've seen recently get very high praise going to the draft process. Nico, I understand. Nico is 6'6", 180, 190 pounds going into the season. But the whole thing with Tennessee, the whole NIL situation, we're not going to talk about the NIL thing, and it's not about his NIL situation and why he's not in the top 10. But given the talent that he clearly possesses, and he's a 5-star recruit coming out of high school, in Josh Heupel's offense, I expected, and I think a lot of people expected, him to go insane this past year, and he just didn't really do that. I think he had less than 20 passing touchdowns this last year. Obviously, he had the unfortunate error of running out of bounds against Arkansas as time expired. He just didn't live up to the hype that a lot of people were expecting, and going to UCLA, I just don't know if I can see him pushing back into that conversation. Apart from like, oh, he's a former 5-star, I didn't really see anything last year that would go like, okay, I have a lot of faith in this guy going into this year. Like, I've seen people have him as top 5 quarterback in this year's draft class, and he could very well end up being that. But at UCLA, I need to see it. I need to see it first because I wasn't really that impressed of what I saw last year. I mean, this is an offense that saw Hendon Hooker get talked about as a Heisman Trophy candidate. We saw Joe Milton put up solid numbers here. I was expecting like Nico with the 5-star backing and all that stuff. I thought he'd do great. And he really didn't do that. And Rocco Beck's another interesting candidate because I've seen some people talk about him being a potential first-round draft pick. Like, I mean, I saw a Fox Sports mock draft have him at 18th overall to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like, Rocco Beck has talent. He has a very good deep ball. Doesn't necessarily have an absolute hose for an arm or anything, but he can make those level throws. He throws a very pretty deep ball. Kind of throws a similar deep ball to that of Tyrod Taylor, where he doesn't have the strongest arm in the world, but when everything's timed up, it's one of the prettiest deep balls you'll ever see. Like, I would implore you to go back and watch Tyrod Taylor highlights from when he was in Buffalo, because he threw some great balls down the field to like Sammy Watkins and people like that, Marquise Goodwin as well. Like, that's the kind of deep ball Rocco Beck has. And going into the season, he doesn't have Jalen Knoll. He doesn't have Jaden Higgins there. So the offense is going to be predicated around him. And it's going to be interesting to see how he develops around that. He's got the same offensive coordinator they did last year. So remember, his first year, he had Nate Shieldhouse. He left to go to the Rams. They they promoted Moser. He's going to be the OC this year. So a lot of eyes are going to be on Rocco Beck because Iowa State is going to be one of the better teams expectedly in the Big 12 this coming season. I just want to see more complete games from Rocco Beck. There was a few stretches throughout last season where he wouldn't really play that great in the meat and potato section of the game, but once the game got to like the breaking point or something, like when you needed him to step, like against UCF, it's a prime example of that. We would see him step up and make plays, but we need to see that more consistently throughout the course of the game, at least in my opinion. I think he is talented, but yeah, he comes in the honorable mention section. I'll probably have Nico at 11 and Rocco at number 12 in this conversation, and when I get to number 10, which is right now, I think there's going to be some people that are a little upset with who I have at number 10. I have Sawyer Robertson from Baylor. Now, he was a first-year starter at Baylor. He went into last season as the backup to Daquan Finn, transferred him from Toledo. Nice dual-threat option there. Robertson transferred in the season prior from Mississippi State. Didn't get any real playing time that year either. So going into this year as the backup again, there weren't really a lot of eyes on him going in, but Daquan Finn struggled against Utah in week 2 for their second game of the season, got hurt. Robertson came in, and the start of that Robertson era, like the era, I guess you could call it, they had him and Finn as or at the QB1 section. There was no like guaranteed starter for the spot, but he played well against Air Force. But then they rattled off 3 straight losses. Now, they did play the likes of Colorado. They did play Iowa State and BYU. 2 of those 3 games were on the road, and 2 of those 3 games were against top 25 opponents. And Iowa State happens to fit in both those categories. And after those 3 games, we saw Baylor go on a nice 6-game win streak. Robertson played very, very well. You saw big-time performances against Texas Tech, against Kansas in there as well. And he put up solid numbers against LSU in the bowl game as well. It was just a matter that LSU was just too good for them. LSU and Baylor are just on 2 different playing fields here. And Sawyer Robertson threw a pick 6 in that game, but it bounced off the running back's face mask. It was returned it was just a little screen pass, and it got returned for a touchdown. Like, it was just unfortunate that had to take place, but Robertson can make a lot of very good throws. He's 6'4", 220 pounds. He can make those sidearm throws. He's a former baseball player, so you expect him to make those little sidearm tosses in there. His deep ball, sometimes he takes a little bit too much off it, so the receiver has to come back to it a little bit more than what you would like, but when everything's synced up, he does throw a nice deep ball. He does have a good arm, and he's a decent athlete as well. He just comes in at number 10 because, yes, we saw it for the portion of last year, but now that he's the guaranteed starter going into the season and coming off a 6-game win streak to end the season before losing to LSU in the bowl game, I want to see if he can do that for an entire season. He is a very intriguing prospect. You could realistically have him higher if you really wanted to, but I got him coming in here at number 10. Number 9, this guy is one of the most fun, or one of the more entertaining quarterbacks to watch in college football, not just in this draft, and that's John Mateer from Oklahoma. Remember, he transferred in from Washington State. He followed his offensive coordinator / quarterback coach to Oklahoma this offseason. He was the number one player, or number one quarterback at least, in the transfer portal this offseason. A lot of people really wanted John Machiro. There are people linking him to Alabama. And again, he ultimately ended up going to Oklahoma. He's going to be fun. He's going to be fun. The reason I could realistically have him higher on here, he's not the biggest guy in the world. That's one of the things that knocks on him. But Washington State playing in the Pac-2, or the 2-pack, whatever you want to call it, this past season, they kind of had a non-con schedule that wasn't really that impressive, where you're playing teams like San Jose State, not UNLV. UNLV was a fairly solid team, and they played them. New Mexico was in there as well. They lost to Oregon State in the Pac-2 championship game, I guess you could call it. And that's what's going to hold him back a little bit from being higher, but it wouldn't shock me if he puts on a show at Oklahoma this year, which he very well could. He could be a lot higher on this year, because this dude's just an absolute gamer. I think that's the best way I can describe John Machiro. You look at the game against San Jose State, had well over 300 yards passing, had I think 4 touchdowns, yes, 2 interceptions, and over 100 yards rushing. He has the most rushing yards out of any quarterback in this top 10 with like 800 something rushing yards this year. And he's like, he rolls out of the pocket really nicely. The ball just like leaves his hand really quick. It's like this really like no drawn back motion or anything. It's just like, and it's gone. Rolls out to the left, rolls out to the right really well. And he just wants to make plays. Sometimes that's to the detriment, but you want your quarterback that's confident. There's not a single throw he doesn't think he can't make. There's not a single play he thinks he doesn't think he can make. And he's just a very fun quarterback. I want to see that reined in a tiny bit. I don't want to say like completely scrap the excitement that he has at the quarterback position, but like rein it in a little bit, because I think that will push him over the top, especially at Oklahoma, replacing Jackson Arnold like we brought up before. He's going to be a really fun player to watch this coming season, especially if he keeps doing what he did at Washington State. If he continues to do that, there's no reason he can't ball out this year. Like, he sat behind Cam Ward for 2 years. Ward transferred to Miami, boosted his draft stock like crazy, and he's been compared a little bit to Baker Mayfield and Gardner Minshew as well. Just a gamer. Just an absolute gamer. That San Jose State game was a whole hell of a lot of fun to watch. I would very much recommend you go back and watch him in that game. Again, 2 interceptions, not great. One of them, the linebacker just jumped in front of him, didn't see him. The other one, he was late on the throw. But there are some plays like he'd roll out to his left, act like he's going to run, and then the defense was sucking. He does like a jump shot over the defender for the score. Like, he's just a very fun quarterback to watch. And he comes in at number 9 on here. Number 8, the guy we brought up earlier, Carson Beck, transferred down to Miami this offseason from Georgia. I'm 50-50 on the move from Georgia to Miami. Like, I mean, you look at what we brought up Cam Ward. You look at what Cam Ward did at Miami last year, transferring him from Washington State, putting up great numbers, finishing in the top 4 in the Heisman Trophy, All-American, all that stuff. Carson Beck is not as physically talented as Cam Ward, which is something crazy to say, given that Cam Ward was a 0-star recruit coming out of high school and first started playing college football at the FCS level. Like, to say that he's more talented than Carson Beck is kind of crazy in a what do you call that? And if you're looking at it through a magnifying glass or some magnifying glass, through tunnel vision, I guess you could say. I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but he's clearly more talented than him. Carson Beck, though, going into last year, like we talked about, was seen by a lot of people as the number 1 overall quarterback prospect in the class. Like, he has a good arm. He's not the greatest athlete, but can make plays when he needs to. I think he had like 1 rushing touchdown last year at Georgia. Yeah, he's frustrating at times. There's times where he's a very confidence-based player, I think is the best way I could describe it, where like, if one bad thing happens, it seems like everything starts tumbling on top of each other. Like, you look at the game against Alabama in particular. Like, he had 3 or 4 interceptions in that game. He had a fumble. He gave up a safety when he got an intentional grounding penalty in the end zone. Like, he has those types of moments. But in that game, I got to give him some credit as well. He did bounce back in that game. Ended up throwing like 3 or 4 touchdowns a game, trying to get Georgia back into the game. Against Ole Miss, he wasn't that great. But you look at the last part of the season, I think the last 3 or 4 games of the regular season, he had like 11 touchdowns, no picks. Prior to that, he had like 7 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, like leading into that game. Like, he just has these very up and down moments. And at Miami, if he's able to unlock some of those things in a more quarterback-friendly offense, I guess you could say, because there was some times, like you look at last year, where he was critical of the lack of run game or the lack of tight ends. Can you look at going from Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey to not having those guys? Yeah, your production's going to dip a little bit, but you need to step up to that. You're the number 1 quarterback in the draft class. You need to step up to that. And what was interesting, I saw a tweet about this. It was like, if Carson Beck got hurt against Clemson and sat out the rest of the year, he would have been the number 1 overall pick in the draft, because everybody thought highly of him, or at least maybe not number 1 overall pick, but he would have been a top 5 quarterback in this year's draft class had he done that, but we watched him play. He didn't do great. He struggled numerous times throughout the season. There were some times where you could see him get his confidence back. Yeah, transferring from Georgia to Miami, we'll see how that works out, but he comes in at number 8. Number 7, Sam Leavitt from Arizona State, another transfer. So this is our third, I guess he didn't transfer last year, but he transferred from Michigan State to Arizona State, and he was just fun. He was fun, and kind of like the entire Arizona State team in general, Sam Leavitt went under the radar till about, I don't remember the exact week, but whenever Desmond Howard said on ESPN that why are we talking about Arizona State?
Big 12, Arizona State, Kansas State still in the mix. They need a little help to get to the Big 12 title game.
I saw that on the rundown. I was like, why are we picking this game? I thought it was a mistake.
That might be the first one of those this season.
Yeah, but just Kansas State, I guess. Let's go.
I think that's the time where everybody started paying attention to not just Arizona State, but Sam Leavitt, and saw some of the plays that he could make throughout the course of the season. Now, they didn't play like the toughest opponents in the Big 12 this past season, but if you're projected to finish dead last, comfortably finish dead last in your first year in a new conference, and you not only win the conference, but dominate the conference championship game against Iowa State, who was one of the preseason favorites in that category with the conference's best defense, then yeah, you deserve to be in that spot. And then you take Texas to double overtime in the first round of the college football playoff when nobody really gave you a shot in that game either. This year for Sam Leavitt, though, it's going to be interesting because there's no Cam Skattebo in the backfield. Cam Skattebo was obviously Arizona State's leading rusher. He was their second leading receiver as well. He just provided so much to this offense, and all the eyes are going to be put on Sam Leavitt. But like we talked about John Mateer before, he's a gamer. But the difference between Mateer and Sam Leavitt is that Sam Leavitt rarely puts the ball in harm's way, and I think that's a big boost for him. Like, I think he had only 5 turnover-worthy throws this past season. He had 6 interceptions, 5 turnover-worthy throws, which I think joint third least in the nation last year. He's very good at making smart plays. He rolls out to the pocket, rolls outside of the pocket really well. He's a great athlete. You look at the game against Texas where he cuts up the middle, is originally down the middle of the field, burst out to the left, and picks up a 20, 30, 40-yard gain on the ground. He has those types of moments, and he comes in at number 7 on this list. And I think if Arizona State's, because now all the eyes are on him. You won the Big 12 last year. You almost beat Texas. All the eyes are on you now. So let's see how he lives up to the hype, but he could definitely be in that first-round conversation if he continues to build off of what he did last year. Number 6, I have Fernando Mendoza from Indiana, transferring in from Cal. I liked what I saw from him from Cal last year. The first game I saw from him last season was against Miami in that crazy game where Cam Ward had the pick 6. They had to come back in that game. They ultimately ended up winning the game in a classic ACC matchup, Miami versus Cal. Very close rivalry. Very, very close geographic rivalry right there. But Fernando Mendoza, from Miami, went to the same high school as Mario Cristobal. If anybody was going to transfer into Miami, I thought it'd be him. But he transferred to Indiana to play under Kurt Cignetti in that high-powered offense. This dude's just fun. He's really fun. He's 6'5", about 225 pounds, has a really good arm, and he's a plus athlete. I'm not sitting here and going like he's on the same level as John Mateer or Sam Leavitt or anybody like that, but he can break off big runs. He had multiple 20-plus yard runs throughout the season. You look at the game against Stanford, he had a 50-yard run in there, but the dude has a very strong arm. The ball explodes out of his hands. He's got a pretty quick release in there, and his size makes him an intriguing prospect. And in Cal's I don't know what you want to call it, blasé offense, I guess you could call it. Seeing him transfer to Indiana in that high-powered offense under Kurt Cignetti is going to be very, very fun to see. And he could be one of those guys that definitely creeps into the upper echelon of this draft class, given the tools that he has at his disposal. If he does well at Indiana this year, like I'm expecting him to, he could be a very high draft pick in this year's class. Number 5, though, I think this is where we start off where I'm like, these guys are, I don't want to say guaranteed first-round guys, but right now, I would say these guys are most likely to be first-round guys. And the first one on here is Cade Klubnik from Clemson, a former 5-star recruit, was the backup to another 5-star in DJU for a couple seasons before taking the job last year. Put up decent numbers last year, but this year had a very under-the-radar season. He threw 30-plus touchdowns in the league, in college football. He was one of 2 players that are returning this coming season that registered over 40 total touchdowns. It was him and John Mateer. Klubnik, I don't think no one really talked about Cade Klubnik last year, like unless I missed it. But Cade Klubnik, his best thing out of comparably to everybody else in this draft class, he is the best when it comes to throwing outside the numbers, outside the hashes. His accuracy on the outside is very, very impressive. He's also a very good ad-libber. He is the most poised quarterback, what's the word I'm looking for here? There's a specific word I'm looking for. Most polished quarterback in this draft class. Like, there was a play against Texas. He rolls out to the left, and he ducks under their defender, and he just looks so smooth. It's so smooth. There's no like access movements and stuff like that. He's not wasting any movements there. Just a very calm roll out to the left, duck behind the defender, get the ball to his receiver for first down. Like, he can make these types of plays. He's a good athlete as well. He's got good size. He comes in at number 5 on this list. Very consistent quarterback. If he continues to build on what he did last year, like you look at that, like 18 touchdowns the year before, 19 to like 36 last year. And if he builds on that, I'm not saying he's going to double that like he did the season prior. But if he's able to build on that and Clemson's going to be able to get back to the upper echelon of college football again. I know they made the playoff, and I know they made the ACC championship game and all that, and won the ACC championship game, but no one really looked at Clemson the same way that we had in previous years. But if he's able to build on last year, I'm going to sit here and go, if he does that, not only could be a first-round draft pick, which I already think he is, he could be the number 1 overall pick in the draft. And I think the same could be said for this next quarterback on here, Lenore Sellers from South Carolina. If you were building a quarterback for this draft class, and there's always one a year where it's like the toolsy quarterback, where like the plus athlete, great size, good arm. That's Lenore Sellers, 6'3", 242 pounds. He forced like 47 or 50 tackles, missed tackles this past season at South Carolina. Like, he's a plus athlete, like very good athlete, the best, most athletic quarterback in this draft class. And when he gets outside the pocket and when he gets past the line of scrimmage, he's impossible to tackle. Like we talked about with the forced missed tackles thing. He's still very raw. He's 19 years old right now, so there's a lot of stuff you could build on him with this. And in Shane Beamer's offense, there's no reason why he couldn't build up and continue to build on what he did this past season. And he's just really fun. Like, there are some erratic throws in there. He has a little bit of a fumble issue as well. I think he led the nation in quarterbacks for fumbles this past year, which is definitely not ideal. But if you just look at what he does in a box and go like, okay, if we can get him right and we can build on what he has as far as a physical tool set, there's no reason why he can't be the best quarterback in this draft class. He's an exciting prospect. He plays in the SEC, which a lot of people really like that. He had a very good game against Missouri in the back half of last year, like 5 touchdowns this game. Yes, he had an interception, which was a little unfortunate, but 5 touchdowns in the game. Sometimes the ball can sail on him a little bit, but that'll come in time. He's 19 years old, but from a physical tool standpoint, there aren't a lot of better options in this draft class. Number 3 on this list might be a little low for some people. I have Arch Manning. And it's not anything to do with him as a player. I think Arch Manning might be the most talented quarterback in this draft class. He's got a plus arm. He's a very good athlete. Takes after his dad more than his 2 uncles in regards to that. He's got a little bit of sauce to him as well, which is what we love to see. And they basically ran Quinn Ewers out of town so they could give Arch Manning the keys to the organization, franchise, university, whatever you want to call it now in this new NIL era. But the reason I have him at 3 is because he's only started 2 games. It was against UL Monroe and Mississippi State. Now, he had made some ridiculous throws in the game against Mississippi State, but I don't think there's enough right now. Like, if I'm looking to what I think he can be, then yes, he would be the number 1 overall quarterback in this draft. I just want to see him play a little bit more. I want to see it. We saw him coming in spurts last year when Quinn Ewers would go down with injuries. We unfortunately saw him in the game against Georgia, in the regular season game against Georgia. But he's a good athlete. He's got a strong arm. His last name's Manning. Like, he's got all the things you're looking for. And he plays in a very quarterback-friendly offense under Steve Sarkisian. There is no doubt. If the draft started right now, I'd be willing to bet he'd be the number 1 overall pick in the draft. But he only threw 90 passes last year. So I don't think I can sit here and say, like, just based off haven't seen him play that much, I'm going to have him at 3. Don't lose your minds at me, please. Please, I'm begging you. Do not lose your minds at me, because I think at the end of the season, he probably will be QB1, but there's going to be a lot of conversation about whether or not he decides to declare this year. There's a lot of people talking about, like, he'll go back to school for the 2027 draft, which would make a lot of sense. And he'd be in DJ Lagway's draft class. Well, that'd be a very fun draft class there, but I have him in here at number 3. Like, the uncertainty about where if he's gonna leave this year or gonna stay back or whatever, and the lack of playing time. He only threw 90 passes last year. I want to see him play a little bit more, so we have him at number 3. Number 2, I flipped back and forth between number 1 and number 2. I have Garrett Nussmeier at number 2 from LSU. The most anticipatory thrower in this entire draft class is Garrett Nussmeier. There were numerous times last year where, like, if you're watching the back angle, by the time he lets the ball off, the receiver is behind the defender still, and he throws them open better than anybody else in this draft class. The only issue, I guess you could say, with Garrett Nussmeier is that he's a gunslinger in every sense of the word, but sometimes the gun gets a little haywire at sometimes. He doesn't have both hands on the barrel. Like, he does it like what you see in the movies where he shoots it with one hand and it just flies somewhere else. Like, that's sometimes what he can get in the habit of doing, but when everything's lined up, he can make some of the best throws in college football. He's a little bit on the, I don't want to say on the smaller side because he's 6'2", 200 pounds, but he doesn't compare. Like, if you look at the 3 quarterbacks that we just mentioned there with Manning, Klubnik, and Sellers, he's the smallest one of all of them, but he has a plus arm. He's not the greatest athlete where he's going to break off massive gains, but if you see a few times last year for LSU, on 3rd and 4th down situations, he's not afraid to tuck the ball under his shoulder and pick up first downs. We saw it against Ole Miss. There was another game, I can't remember which one it was, where he rolled out to the right. I want to say it was against Oklahoma. I could be wrong in saying that. It was one of the latter stages games of last year where he rolls out to his right and dives for the first down. He's a gamer. He's a gunslinger. He's going to do everything in his power to get his team the win. He made some great throws against Ole Miss, great throws against Baylor. Like, he's a very, very good quarterback, and I almost had him at number 1. But number 1 on this list, I have Drew Aller. And there's going to be some controversy around Drew Aller. He very much divides opinions around Twitter in regards to who the top quarterbacks in college football are, but there are not any quarterbacks in this draft class that can make the throws that Drew Aller can make. He's such a natural thrower of the football. Yes, his footwork can be a little wayward at times. Yes, his accuracy can wane on him at times. But when everything's linked up, there is some throws that he can make that only other quarterbacks in this draft class could only dream of making. Like, you look at the game against Baylor, what defenders are dragging around him, and he's still able to deliver balls in the end zone for scores. Like, that game against Baylor, against Oregon in the Big Ten Championship game, statistically, you looked at that game and go like, oh, he went, I don't remember his exact numbers, I'll put them somewhere on the screen, and he would go like, oh, that's not the greatest game. But you actually watch the game and see some of the plays that he's making. You're like, wow, there's not a lot of quarterbacks that can even think of doing that. He's got the prototypical size you look for as well, like 6'5", 240 pounds or thereabout. He has got such a high ceiling, but you just need to be patient with it. I understand completely why he came back to school. He's still a raw prospect and all that stuff, but there are some reports that suggest if he went out this year, he'd be the number 2 overall pick to the Browns. And after that Big Ten championship game, that was a lot of the momentum building in there. The game against SMU, he didn't really need to do a whole lot because Penn State's defense just absolutely destroyed Kevin Jennings the entire time. Game against Boise State made some crazy throws. The Notre Dame game didn't have the greatest game of all time, but when everything again is linked up, there are not a lot of quarterbacks better in the country that can make the same plays that he can. He can make plays in the run game. He's not an insane athlete, but he can make plays in the run game when required, and I'm excited to see what he does going into this next season. And that is what our top 10 quarterbacks for the 2026 NFL Draft stand right now. Just a reminder, we have Sawyer Robertson at number 10, John Mateer at number 9. We have Carson Beck at 8, Sam Levitt 7, Fernando Mendoza at number 6, Cade Klubnik 5, Lenore Sellers 4, Arch Manning 3, Garrett Nussmeier at number 2, and Drew Aller at number 1. This is not going to age well, is it? This is going to probably look completely different by the time the draft actually ends up rolling around after college football season starts off. Like, it's a fun experiment, though. It's not going to mean anything in the grand scheme of things, but I'm excited to see what happens this college football season. And I think, again, as things stand right now, with Arch Manning being available for next year's class, I do think there are 5 quarterbacks that get taken in next yeir's draft class. That's my bold. I don't know if that's even a bold prediction right now, because a lot of teams are waiting for quarterbacks for next year. It's just going to be interesting. We're gonna have to wait and see. That's all we're gonna say. That's all we're gonna have to say here. But if you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. If you want to let me know what your rankings are or what you thought of my rankings down in the comments below, I'd appreciate that. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure to check out all the links down in the description below. Check out the blog post on the LoganBlackmanShow.com. And yeah, if you enjoyed the video, that's awesome. If you didn't, I sincerely apologize. Try to be better next time. And I will see you guys later. Peace.